I say good morning, Belize, and good morning, and how are you this morning?
This is the story of one family, a family whose name would become synonymous with tragedy, violence, and unanswered questions. In Belize City's Southside neighborhoods, the Felix name was whispered in fear, in grief, and in headlines. Almost 2 decades, multiple members of that family were gunned down, ambushed, attacked, some killed, some scarred for life. But the bloodshed did not end with them. The cousins, Maurice and Emory Felix, would also become infamous in a cycle of violence that finally consumed them. Tonight, we tell the story of the Felix family in Belize, how violence stalked their lives, tore their bonds, and left a legacy that haunts their community still. On May 15, 2006, Mother's Day in Belize. For many, a day of celebration. For the Felix household, the beginning of a nightmare. Tyrone, known as Shaba to friends, was walking home after a Mother's Day concert through a shortcut from Faber's Road into Gil Street when he was ambushed. Reports say a gunman shot him in the back of the head. He died instantly. Tyrone was 24 years old. For the mother, Therese Felix, the loss was unbearable. But for the community, it was a chilling reminder that violence could reach into one's home on a day meant for love and family. The violence hit again with the death of Cluck Cluck Felix, a name that would mark the beginning of the family's darkest chapter. Cluck Cluck Felix, sometimes referred to simply as Cluck Cluck, was the eldest brother of Maurice and Emory. His death would mark the first in a grim pattern. Accounts suggest he died in a hail of machine gun fire on Central American Boulevard, in an ambush-style shooting. As reported at the time, this killing is widely considered retaliation for the murder of a man named Williams, who was allegedly a brother of a police officer. The circumstances were shocking. Survivors and community whispers claimed that Cluck Cluck's killers lay in wait behind a concrete barrier, firing into him without warning. His murder sent ripples across the Port Loyola and Southside neighborhoods, signaling that no one, not even the eldest, was safe. Only a few months after Therese Felix buried her son Tyrone and her cousin Cluck Cluck, another son fell. On December 1, 2007, 16-year-old Faron Felix was shot and killed. The story was chillingly ordinary. Therese sent him to buy habaneros from a shop on the boulevard. He left only to be fatally wounded when returning. The shooting reportedly occurred near Central American Boulevard and Faber's Road. Shots were fired from behind a concrete fence. Faron suffered multiple wounds and later died at the hospital. In the aftermath, community leaders led protests to tear down fences believed to hide shooters, to demand justice. But for Therese, it was not just grief, it was a fight. She, along with other mothers, founded organizations like Mothers Organized for Peace, boldly raising her voice even as bullets flew around her. Tragedy compounded tragedy. The family's activism had come under attack, and not long after Faron's death, Therese herself died in 2008 from health issues. But by then, her life was forever defined by loss. She had lost 2 sons to gun violence, and the battle for peace continued violently around her. The legacy she tried to build would soon meet further storms. On January 5, 2013, at approximately 2:30 a.m., the house at 6 Gil Street, once a safe haven, was besieged by gunfire. Bullets rained through the fence, through walls into bedrooms. Inside, 22-year-old Feesha Felix, daughter of Therese Felix, lay asleep. She did not wake. 1 shot struck her forehead. She was dead on arrival at the hospital. 2 slugs were discovered inside the home, and 10 expended 9mm shells outside. Investigators said the shooters may have known the layout of the home, taking shots through a peephole in the fence. Feesha was described by police as an innocent victim, no ties to gang activity. The motive was murky. Investigators speculated the shooting was retaliation for a dispute earlier that evening involving her brothers. This was the 3rd child in the family to die by gun violence. In between and around these tragedies, other siblings survived attempts, were grazed by bullets and were targeted, like Ryan Cash Bennett and Terry Felix. In 2010, Ryan was shot in his chest and arm while riding his bicycle near Gil Street, but survived. Then in 2009, Terry was shot in his hip in a separate attack. Pain had become daily, uncertainty constant, and fear pervasive. By this time, the Felix home on Gil Street had been attacked multiple times. Bullets pierced walls, fences, windows. The house itself seemed under siege, and yet amid the fear and the blood, the cousins, Maurice and Emory Felix, were plotting their own rise in this lethal theater. The lines between family, crime, politics, and vengeance blurred. What emerges next is a web of street power, court battles, and a final act of violence that would leave no survivors. Maurice and Emory Felix, younger brothers to Cluck Cluck Felix, cousins to Therese Felix family, became household names in Belize's criminal underworld. Their rise was controversial, violent, and ultimately fatal. In April 10, 2006, 29-year-old Mitchum Heredia, a mechanic from T Street in Port Loyola, was shot and killed. Maurice and Emory were charged with that murder. They were found guilty or murder in 2007, but it was overturned on appeal. They were retried in 2012, but it ended with a hung jury. They were tried a third time in 2014, but that trial ended with a hung jury as well, and they were released. Maurice and Emory were implicated in yet another violent incident. On May 25, 2015, shots were fired at the home of a Cesar Ridge Road family. The target was later identified as Mark Gentle Vernon, who succumbed to his injuries on June 8. Maurice's initial charge of attempted murder was upgraded to murder. Emory stood beside him in the case of attempted murder of Gentle's mother, Pamela Cumberbatch. These cases illustrate how the Felix brothers operated on more than one front. High-profile murders, long drawn-out trials, witness intimidation questions, and a cycle of violence they never fully escaped. Yet for them, prison did not equal peace, because in 2019, after being granted bail under strict conditions and relocated from their mother's home due to threats, the brothers would return to public spaces, only to meet the same fate they had allegedly inflicted on others. On July 3, 2019, at about 6:30 p.m., the scene turned deadly. At Sky Deck Sports Bar on Bayman Avenue, Maurice and Emory were playing pool. Two armed men entered and opened fire. Emory attempted to flee, stepping out into the street but was struck down. Maurice remained inside and was also shot. Both died at or near the scene.
Will a spate of reprisals succeed the most recent gangland executions in Belize City? Tonight, police have ramped up their presence in certain neighborhoods in anticipation of an eventuality, following the Wednesday night murders of a pair of well-known siblings. Brothers Maurice and Emory Felix rose to notoriety for the numerous brushes with law, including a stint on pretrial detention for the murder of Mark Gentle, as well as an attempt on his mother's life back in May 2015. After spending 3 years and 8 months in prison, both men were released on bail with the condition that they report to the Queen Street police station to sign in twice a week. Jeanette Felix was at home on Sanker Street when her daughter informed her of the deadly shooting.
I made up on my bed, lay down. My daughter, one of the teacher, come find my room. And he come and say, "Ma, you have to get up and put on your clothes, change your clothes." So because the boy then get shut up and he not sound good.
The Felix brothers were inside this establishment on Bayman Avenue after reportedly checking in at Precinct 1 sometime earlier in the evening. They were caught flat-footed by a lone gunman who entered the premises, walked up a flight of stairs, and carried out a hit on the siblings.
Last night at about 6:45 p.m., police responded to shots being fired at Bayman Avenue. As a result, they visited a business establishment where on the street side police observed Emory Vincent Felix, 33 years Belizean, with apparent gunshot wounds to his body. Upon police making inspection inside of the business establishment on the second floor, they observed the body of Maurice Cardinal Felix, 34 years Belizean, also with apparent gunshot wounds to his body.
Upon learning of the incident, Jeanette Felix rushed to the Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital, only to discover that the bodies of her sons were still being processed at the scene of the shooting. She describes what happened next.
So I get to a vehicle when me they write this, and he carry me out there. He carry me out there. And that time when I meet Amy on the ground. That's how I meet my son on the ground. The next one me the upstairs and say he me the play pool. That's the understanding I get. And the understanding I get is that they never they up there long. They wasn't up there a long time. Because people talk to them. People talk to them, and the people that would talk to them, they tell you what time they talk to them.
According to investigators, the pair was inside Skydeck Bar and Lounge where Maurice was playing a game of billiards.
What police got us so far is that both male persons were inside of the establishment playing pool when persons entered the establishment and fired several shots at their direction, causing the above-mentioned injuries to them.
The scene where the shootings took place was littered with spent shells. On the ground where Emory Felix lay motionless, scenes of crime personnel retrieved 13 expended shells. Upstairs of the building, another 17 expended shells were recovered from where his older brother was fatally shot.
The only thing I know if you know who actually shoot my son.
Was this something because of the lifestyle of your sons? Was this something that you as a parent were expecting? Did you see this coming? That your sons would have been targeted in this kind of manner?
All I may want are my sons there. Me and they could go along with me to church. Because if we're not the inner St. John's Church, we're the inner Bethany Baptist Church. That I'm if we live in Sunday time, if you're not the inner St. John's Church, you're the inner Bethany Baptist Church. But I couldn't get them back in a church because they say if they're even in the church, then go and go kill them.
Admittedly, the writings were on the wall for the Felix brothers, who were a long way from home when death came knocking. The mother saw the hit coming but could not say when it would take place and often found herself in suspense until the ominous message was delivered.
Then thing you start from one charge to another charge. Because you know then the inners. Every time they charge, I call them that I how to say it? Representative of murder case. That's how I call them representative. Because they don't do the murder, but they arrest them. Then when you listen, they kill the person we do the murder out here. Then when they come out, the heat is out here. That's how for their life. Because Maurice get charged for Michael Skeet. He get charged for somebody else and somebody else. And this case where he depend for Mark Vernon, that time a winning case. Representing murderers. That's how for their life go.
With the murders of Maurice and Emory, Jeanette Felix has since lost all three of her sons to gun violence. Her eldest son, Cluck Cluck Felix, was also shot and killed in September 2007 in an ongoing gang feud. Of note is that these Felix brothers are part of a larger family of murder victims related to deceased social activist Therese Felix, whose children have also been gunned down in Port Loyola.
For over a decade, the Felix name appeared again and again in Belize's newswire, associated with death, tragedy, crime, and heartbreak. The family lost sons, daughters, a mother. Survivors bear scars, emotional, physical, and communal. But what remains is not just a tale of violence. It is a portrait of a society where vengeance, fear, power, and grief intertwine. The roads of Port Loyola, Gil Street, Bayman Avenue, Central American Boulevard, they carry memories, stories of bullets flying, mothers crying, families torn apart. The legacy of Therese Felix, who fought for peace even as her children fell, is complicated. She tried to transform tragedy into activism, but the machinery of violence proved relentless. In the end, the brothers, Maurice and Emory, like their cousins and sibling, perished not in silence, but in a blaze of gunfire. Their killings closed one violent chapter, but the questions remain. Who benefits from the cycle of violence? Who enforces accountability? And what of the surviving family members living in the shadows of memory? This is not just the story of one family. It is a cautionary tale of the fragile border between public life and private grief, between activism and retribution, between justice and vengeance. A tale that a lot of families in Belize live. If you found this story meaningful, share it, reflect on it, and join the conversation. The wounds remain, the memory must endure. Thank you once again for joining me, the Beard Man.